Good evening. Do you dream of owning a sailboat and sailing off to the Caribbean, but not sure where to start? Choosing the right boat, figuring out how to finance it, and ensuring the best possible coverage can make buying a sailboat an exciting yet overwhelming adventure. Today, I'm joined by Vanessa Lindsley, an experienced boat broker and sailor, who will share insider tips and expert advice to help you navigate the process with confidence. Whether you're a first time buyer or upgrading to your next dream boat, this episode has something for everyone. So stick around. Please help the channel and engage by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and dropping your questions in the chat so they can be answered live. I'm Captain Tinsley, and this is a Salty Podcast, episode 48. And here is my guest, Vanessa Lindsley. Hey, Vanessa.
Hello.
Hey, well, you came in slinging gravel into your parking lot to get on here, didn't you?
I did.
I think we made it.
I did. I
All
did it. 1 minute. I'm still settling. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. We just on the Salty Podcast. We just keep on going, and we're probably going to have one of your clients to come on. She just texted me, and she was getting off work and wants to log on. And this is a person that you sold a boat to recently, so we'll get into that and bring her on when she comes on. So tonight I've got 5 questions on buying a sailboat, 5 questions on financing, and 5 questions on insurance. So we don't have to stick to that. That's if you feel like something's more helpful or more interesting, we can go off that script. But I think they're pretty good questions. So why don't we just jump right in and start with buying a sailboat? Well, first of all, tell us your experience as far as how many years you've been selling boats and sailing and teaching, and there's a lot. I mean, you can't tell all your experience of everything, like how you can take a boat apart and put it back together, but we'll save that for another video.
I just have to remember how old I am.
You're my age. So if you tell your age, you're going to tell my age.
So I have
Which is fine.
I've been sailing for 53 years.
Wow.
And I have owned a boat for 48 years.
Wow.
And so I am a class racer. I'm an ocean racer, retired. My body's trying to keep up. I've owned and lived on my cruising sailboat, sailed it halfway around the world on my own for 37 years, and have done 2 other circumnavigations. One was professionally as crew, and the other one was racing. So, and I've been a boat broker now for 32 years. So,
okay.
And I've built a handful of boats from class designs up, and spent 25 years managing and maintaining a full fleet of bareboat charter boats and doing warranty work, a number of a number of brands, but not just isolated to sail and power both, as well as multi-hulls. So, and I've been
well, I'm gonna go ahead and bring out your client.
Okay.
Kelly, and I've met Kelly. Here we go. Kelly, get ready. All right, there she is.
Hi.
So thank you for coming
Kelly.
on. We brought you on to give the context of being on the other side of buying, and I have that experience too. And Vanessa's the expert on so many things, but tonight she's the boat broker and sailor. So you missed it, Kelly, but thank you for coming on, by the way.
No problem.
I would like to say how I met you. So I was down in Key West about a month ago, and Key West, John and I said, hey, let's go look at Vanessa's boat. And your husband, Mike, was standing there. And I honestly thought that he was going to say, hey, who are you sniffing around these boats? So I was like, hey, we're just looking for Vanessa's boat. And he goes, hey, I thought that was you. And he recognized me. And you guys were actually watching the podcast, and you saw Vanessa and decided, I'm going to contact her because there was a boat you were looking at online that you ended up buying. And we're going to get into all that. So I think that's really cool. And you just jump in. I'm going to ask some questions. You just jump in where you think it pertains, where you can offer something. Just go ahead and tell us your name. I haven't let you talk yet.
My name's Kelly.
Okay. And your husband's Mike, and you're on a boat right now. Both of you are.
Yeah. Yep. Sold our house, bought a boat.
Okay. What kind of boat is it?
It's a Island Packet 349, a 2021.
2021. That is a sweet boat. Okay. All right. Let's start with the first question is for Vanessa and possibly Kelly. What's the biggest mistake first-time buyers make when purchasing a sailboat?
There's multiple things. That's hard to say for one specific thing. One, they do get buyer's remorse sometimes if it really wasn't meant to be. The other thing is I think they bite off more than they can chew. They either get too small of a boat for what they want to do or too large of a boat for what they want to do. They really haven't thought about and had anybody with a fair amount of experience really spend time talking to them about what it is they're looking at doing. Are you talking about living aboard and cruising the Bahamas and cruising coastwise? Or are you talking about going ocean sailing? What are you talking about doing? So the one thing you never want to do when you buy a boat is spend so much money on it that you can't go sailing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people during COVID, and that's what they did.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of boat sales during that time, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. And my goal as a broker is not ever to sell you a boat that you're not really wanting and that you aren't really looking for. So I'm never going to be wealthy as a boat broker.
Okay. Okay.
My goal is to set you up with a boat that suits your needs and it's what you really want and you're in love with relative to what you want to do and what you want to accomplish with it.
Okay. So if somebody wants to live aboard, or if they want to sail around Florida, or if they want to sail to the Caribbean, those are that criteria that would very different criteria. Yeah. Okay. And what did Kelly tell you they wanted?
Kelly, actually, they were interesting, and I did question them on multiple occasions over and over again. Did I not? I said, "Are you sure this is going to be big enough?" After I found out what they wanted to do, and then I said, "Well, that's a boat that's kind of in a unique situation because that boat has the capability of going around the world. It's one of the smaller boats that has the capability of going out around the world comfortably. It's built well enough to be able to do that, and people know that." So, I asked them, I think every time I talk to you for at least the first half a dozen times, are you sure about this? Didn't I?
I think so.
Wow.
And I mean, just, I guess, backstory, like my husband and I have zippy sailing experience. So for us to literally sell our 1,700 square foot house and buy a sailboat, this was a leap. But we had done some research, so I think that's important, especially for first-time buyers, but for anybody really. Just like Vanessa said, you have to know what you're looking for, what you want to do. And even though we didn't know anything, we did a lot of research about how we might do what we want to do, which was ultimately, we knew we wanted to learn how to sail. We wanted a boat that was small enough that we could handle with 2 people, big enough that it's comfortable to live aboard. And we had done a lot of research on island packets, and it's so funny because Mike's number 1 rule was don't fall in love with an island packet. And then what did we do? That immediately fell in love with an island packet.
It's hard not to. So here's the folks that run the Island Packet Facebook group. This is the person that probably approved your when you tried to join when you did join the Facebook group. This is them right here. This is Hayden and Radine of SB Island Spirit, who are also boat brokers. And so I'd asked them to come in here and chime in too. Yeah, that is a beautiful boat. I think, in my opinion, that boat is perfect for a forever boat. And Hayden and Radine are on an Island Packet 35, so they're on a similar size, and they've had that boat for 15 years or something like that. Hayden can chime in, but I think it's perfect for everything you want to do. And I have a 320, and I think mine's okay too. So anyway, I think you've got just so many things that are open to you in that boat, and it's such a well-made boat. Like, it will take care of you. That boat will take care of you. Isn't that right, Hayden? He's a big fan of Island Packet. Okay, so let's just go to the next question. How do you determine if a sailboat is priced fairly? So you're a broker and they're looking at a boat and it's way overpriced or way underpriced. How do you handle that?
So there's multiple things right now that are actually going on because once again, when COVID hit, we had a limited inventory, and a lot of people
Yeah.
ended up being in a situation where they were able to take advantage of it. I mean, a long and short of it, and the reality is there are very few boats in this world that are going to appreciate as an asset. This is not a house. This is a boat. Boats, no matter what, are depreciating assets, whether it's minimally or maximally. It depends on the boat, depends on
Yeah.
the manufacturer. One of the
Right.
really good things about island packets is that they don't depreciate the same as other boats do. They have the capability of holding their value and actually some of them appreciating depending on what you do to them. So I've got one of those right now. And that's
Listing. You have a listing like
yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
have a 485 that you guys have heard from before from Bill Kenny
Right.
that they're having some health issues and they have to move the boat, and unfortunately they're not going to get to complete their goals and their aspirations, what they wanted to do. But that boat is close to perfect, but it's one of the very few boats that it is totally capable of sailing around the world. You could step on it right now, grab your clothes and go out and grab your food and you're ready to go.
Right.
So
And it's in
and
Jacksonville if anybody's interested.
thank you. It's you know so what I always do, I do something a little bit different from a lot of people. There is a book that's out there that the banks like to use still, and especially here in the South, and they're called the Buck Book. Now, the
Is it kind of
finance,
like the Kelly Blue Book?
kind of, but it's worse. It's about 20% off. You have to remember that boats are actually in different territories. And when you're in the South and you're in areas where we have the tropics, you have a lot of weather damage that's done to boats. And it's not damage, it's simple wear and tear. That's part of the depreciation. So
Right.
the Buck Book does not take into account the territorial area of where those boats are. So you may have times you go to a bank to actually get a loan on a boat, and they're going to tell you, well, it's not worth that, or it's worth something more than that.
Right.
And I have always, for a number of years now, what I do is I go in and I look at what other boats sold at. In addition, I look to what the equipment that is on those boats that is comparable to those boats. And then I look at those exact same boats that have sold. When have they sold? Where did they sell? And what was the situation? And you got to pick up the phone and you got to call all those brokers and all those people and say, hey, can you tell me something about your boat? Otherwise, you're not going to get an accurate answer because you
So
can't just.
when you're dealing with a lender, you might have to call and well, if you have it surveyed, they're going to do what you call an appraisal on the survey,
They do the.
and
What's the money?
that surveyor is going to take all that into consideration and hopefully.
And most of the time, surveyors love working with me because I do a lot of that homework for them ahead of time.
Nice.
Because when I deal with people who are looking at buying boats, I want them to get a fair market value. I don't
Sure.
want them to overpay for a boat. I don't want the seller, on the other hand, to get taken for a ride. So one of the things I do when I very first list a boat, or I'm actually have a client that's looking for a boat, is I go in and I do that homework. So, and to me, and what I found is that is a very important thing because you're going to find out if a boat's had hurricane damage. You're going to find out if a boat is sunk. You're going to find out if a boat has had anything major that's happened to it when you do a title and a lien search on it. And also, if it hasn't been uncovered, when you go to the survey and the time of the surveyor is going to uncover the rest.
Mhm.
So I don't always do it in defense of the boat. I do it in defense of the price. So
Sure.
the COVID pricing took things up to places that they never should have
Just
been.
like real estate. Yeah.
And the hard part is coming back down from that now and getting sellers to understand that,
Yeah.
this was different 3 years ago than it is now.
Right.
Inventory is much less, but that doesn't mean it's going to cost more and be more. We're past that now. And so the lenders are not going to give you the same amount on the dollar as they were at that time, if they were. And that was very limited at that time. There were a lot of cash buyers, and that was part of the problem.
Right.
It's not really a problem. People got to take advantage, both sides of it. People who wanted to escape from COVID were able to do that, but they paid a pretty penny for it. So there's a number of those boats on the market now. And the whole trick is finding out what that value should be at. You know, if you have an original bill of sale and you have all of the add-ons that were added to it, which is kind of the situation that Kelly and Mike were in, that's a new enough boat. There were very few of them that were out there that were actually on the market that have sold. You had brand new ones. You have to figure out a depreciation number off of those brand new ones. In this particular boat, had a couple of different situations. What's the situation that the seller was in? You know, so you throw your offer out there and then you come to meet in the middle, and that's where you go.
Sounds very similar to real estate.
It is very similar to real estate until you come to the, and that's where it's different.
When you come to the what?
The finance and the closing time. And the financing time in real estate is very different from boats.
Well, okay, so my next question,
I can speak to that.
Okay,
I bought a house and I bought a boat.
Okay,
like, I mean, just I don't even know what to say. Like, it was difficult. We were first time boat owners, so we have no experience. So everyone was like, "We're not giving you money because we're such a liability." So thank God Vanessa had some connections in order to help financing happen, because we did go through a couple of places that just frankly were like, no.
And the reason was the credit score or the experience? Or
no,
we're gonna talk about
experience.
financing next, but
it was experience, and just they were all like, "You have no experience. What are you doing?" Basically, because my credit score is great. I mean, we had sold our house, so we had equity that we were, transferring. And then we had some savings as well. Like, we had planned ahead, but it was just basically like, it's just a lot different than a house.
And if you're thinking of buying a boat, let me throw something in there real quick. Don't sell your house.
Yeah. Right? Well, but it was hard because we needed to sell our house in order to have some of the funding.
Right.
And then we were also moving, obviously, like, we came from Northwest Ohio. And there, you can't really have a boat there, but there's the closest lake is a few hours away. Lake Michigan is somewhat close, but we knew that wasn't what we wanted to do. So we were in a unique situation, which made it even more challenging, but I don't really take no for an answer. So I was like, okay, plan B, plan C, we'll figure this out. We'll do it. Yeah. I mean, it was just perseverance.
Vanessa, why did you say don't sell your house?
Well, because when you're getting financing, as well as, and this is a big thing in boats that's different from houses.
Okay.
It helps to have that dirt property. Mm-hmm. I don't have any other way to say it other than dirt property. Dirt property is an equity. It's an asset that can't move.
Yeah. You use it as collateral.
You can have crypto, you can have funding, you can have currency. That can all move.
Right.
A dirt house can't move. Long and short of it. So finance companies a lot of times will look at that. They'll have that as a consideration. Okay, well, they got property. They go off somewhere with a boat. They renege on things. Well, I can turn around and I can take their house. There's your collateral.
Yeah, you use it as collateral. Exactly. But you can still sell it after you get the loan, right?
Exactly. You sell it after you get the loan. And sometimes it does make it a little bit easier. But the other thing is that for insurance purposes, if you have a physical address and you have proof of a length of time in that physical address, depending on where that territorial address is, you'll find out that your insurance rates are different. They vary. And the insurance companies don't like to talk about that. But, here I am. I'm on a boat. I'm in Key West, Florida, and my insurance rate's going to be a heck of a lot different than if I was in Annapolis, Maryland, or even if I was actually just in North Georgia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even though they're still hurricane belt areas, as we've seen, they've actually get more this year than we have.
So the tip of the day would be, if you're buying a boat and you're planning on selling your house, just go ahead and wait till all that's over, get the insurance, get the financing, close on it.
You can have your house ready to sell.
Yeah.
And have your house ready to go and have things going. Be looking for the boat at the same time. I know that's easier said than done, But you find the boat, you get your financing put together on the boat, and then you sell the house after your closing date on the
It's a
boat.
good tip. That's a good tip.
It makes things completely different, and Kelly can attest to
Absolutely.
that because
Yeah.
they ran into that portion of that situation.
And
Insurance.
our house sold in 24 hours. Like
That's amazing.
it was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. Like it sold so fast. And so that
It's
forced
like,
me kind of into like,
I guess we're going south. We're going to get on the sailboat
yeah,
now.
We're going
but
all the lessons
So
of that.
the importance of a pre-purchase survey. What should
Huge.
buyers focus on?
Buyers should focus on one, what are the problems with the boat that the surveyor has found? Two, are they capable of dealing with those problems, or do they seem overwhelming? Not necessarily financially, but as far as mentally as well. You know, you find a great boat and you love that boat, and it had a grounding at some point in time and it loosened the keel bolts and it drove you crazy. And even if you had it professionally repaired, are you going to have it stuck in your head for the rest of your life that something happened to your keel bolts? And every time you're out sailing, you're opening up the bilge and staring at it for 10 minutes going, I got water. I know there's water. I know there's Some people can't get
Well,
past that. That's
well,
huge.
for me, who doesn't fix things, and I pay for people to fix things. Maybe that'll change someday. But if a survey, if there's things that, like, if Mike and Kelly know how to fix, like, okay, there's this problem, but we can handle that. That's different than if it's someone like me. It's like, no, I don't want that. I want it to be all done.
Absolutely.
So those on your capabilities of maintenance, or your willingness to go pull that credit card out and get someone else to fix it.
What they're going to cost. But one, are they something that is detrimental to the depreciation of the boat?
Right.
And that's huge. That statement alone right there is big, because a surveyor can look at that boat and say, oh, this is great, no problem. Surveyors are human. They make errors. They might not have dug all the way into something. And then all of a sudden you get ready to sell that boat in a short period of time or just a couple of years later, and you've actually used the boat, and another surveyor comes up and they say, oh my God, this boat was in a hurricane. This boat went aground, and oh, look at this. And it's a wear and tear item that wasn't caught in a survey.
Yeah, items that cause a problem with resale always have to be considered. Are you planning on keeping this boat, or are you going to flip it? Just like in real estate.
Exactly.
This right here is going to affect the resale. It may not bother you, but a whole bunch of buyers it will.
Right.
And that comes from experience of selling. So that's where a good broker comes in. And okay, so Hayden says, do you find some surveyors are deal killers? I'm sure they are.
there are some surveyors who may be deal killers, but you know what? If I'm using a really good surveyor that I trust their judgment, and I absolutely love working with them as a surveyor, because one, I know they're thorough, and two, I know they're fair, and three, I know they're honest about it, maybe that boat wasn't the right boat for my client in the first place. And it's not, once again, I'm going to say it again, I'm never going to be wealthy from selling boats, because I'm always going to come up and I'm going to represent that boat for what it actually is. So do I have a surveyor that's a deal killer? I won't consider the surveyor the deal killer. I'll consider the boat to be the deal killer, and the honesty behind what actually happened with the boat.
Well, sometimes I know, like with home inspectors, they can over report something to make it sound real scary when you know, you have to be able to talk about that as a broker to say, no, this is not as serious as what he's saying.
And part of your job as that broker, and especially if your clients love this boat and it seems like the right boat for them, is to do the homework on that and figure out where it came from and what the problem actually is and how can it be repaired and what is actually the problem, what is the actual cost of it. That's where the surveyor could be a deal killer. When the surveyor wants to start quoting prices on repairs, no. The surveyor's job is to find something wrong with the boat. They're not the ones doing the repairs.
Right.
They're the ones that are doing the survey, letting you know that something's wrong. leave that up to the people in the industry that are the reasonable, ethical, professional people. Remember, a professional built the Titanic. It was an amateur who built Noah's Ark. I can't help it. I got to always say that. There's a lot of merit to that statement.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But do remember, that is where you're actually going to come in and you're going to say, okay, hey, this is reasonable. I can deal with this. Because they're the ones who are going to be doing the repair. They're the ones that are going to tell you what it's going to cost to fix it.
Yeah, and it may be worth it. It could be worth it. So Kelly, what did you think about that whole experience?
I thought the survey experience was amazing. I mean, also, like, we went into this, that's part of the reason why we chose a newer boat, because we knew, like, we didn't want to have to do a refit. We knew that just was not, that was not going to happen considering our knowledge and skill level. But yeah, there was a few things uncovered, nothing major, nothing that we felt like was going to stop us from buying the boat. We still felt like it was a good price, a fair price. And I mean, we looked at those things and thought, yes, like, these are all things that we can get fixed. Some stuff we willing to learn how to do ourselves. Other things maybe learn from other people. But, you know, the survey process, I think that is important. Like, I'm again thankful that we had a surveyor that seemed trustworthy and very thorough, very thorough. So that was a good experience.
Yeah,
and we learned
it
through that experience.
Takes the mystery out of it. And like you said, Vanessa, I mean, they do miss things, but since you probably chose you chose a trustworthy surveyor, then you could feel good about Vanessa's choice, Kelly.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
The island packet surveyor.
Yeah.
Oh, so you choose your surveyor depending on the boat.
A lot of times, yes. I will choose a surveyor. I will not.
It was Cecilia, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And I will not
Seal.
I will not choose a surveyor for them, but I will give them the experience level. And I believe I gave you guys 3 different people, and I told you their experience.
Yeah.
But I did.
I can't even remember, but I just I think Mike had kind of
Cecilia is the best. She's the one that did both of mine. Yeah, she is. And I found out when I bought this last boat that some surveyors don't even climb the mast anymore. That a lot of them are aging. She does.
Yep. And that was one of the issues that we found was at the top of the mast. So I mean that it's a good thing that she climbed up there.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
And
the way I met Cecilia was through Hayden of SV Island Spirit, the one who's commenting here. And then didn't I introduce you to her? Didn't you meet her through me, Vanessa?
I actually had heard from her, and then you kept telling me you got to meet Cecilia, and I kept telling you I've heard of her. And then
all right.
When you broke your ankle, she was running through the parking lot, and that's when I actually met her.
Yeah. She came to pop in on me, and I'm in the ambulance, and she goes, "Hey," and I said, "I've messed up my ankle." She goes, "I see." She was looking at it. Yeah, she was coming by, and that's really cool. That's a great relationship now, and I can thank Hayden for introducing me to her, and I wouldn't want anybody else now.
Well, electrical systems are another thing, and one of the things that you get with Celia as a surveyor is that you get the full package deal. You don't have to worry about setting schedules for having an electrician come look at the boat, having a rigger come look at the boat, having a diesel mechanic come look at the boat, and then having the surveyor looking at the structure. Celia's a one-shop deal.
Well, she did recommend that I get an independent diesel survey, so I did.
And that is a cursory thing, because what happens is that she's not going to pressure test, but she's going to look, and there's a lot of things you're going to learn from the very beginning when you turn an engine on and you actually run it. You go out on that sea trial for the survey. If you have a weird kind of smoke, blue smoke, gray smoke, white smoke, black smoke coming out, those all mean something different.
Yes, they do.
The whole key is, what is that about? Is that because of the temperature today, or do we actually have maybe a little crack in a head gasket or something that's working on? Well, a crack in a head gasket could be a big deal. It might not be a big deal. What is it? Do you really like this boat? Well, let's figure it out. And you don't have to break the bank finding that out.
Yeah. Which is the point of this video. You don't have
Exactly.
to sink the budget. Now, if you want to, there's plenty of opportunity to break the budget.
Well, and you got to remember that on larger boats, things that are
You
over,
hold that camera still now. Can you
sorry,
get it still?
that are over, things that are
That's
over,
perfect.
things that are over about 60 feet. You know, when you start looking at boats that are over 60 feet, you go into
Yeah.
many mega yachts and mega yachts. You know, you may have a survey that may take 3 days and it may be 4 different people. You know,
Okay.
it's important to take oil samples of your
Yes.
engine and your generator, any running mechanical systems, and have those analyzed. What is the actual wear and tear going on in that engine? Is that wear and tear shown in the hour meter? Well, probably not if it's an older boat and it's a used boat. It's not going to be. So you spend 2.5 days in time and you send those oil samples out, and Celia always pulls oil samples.
Yeah. That's what I did.
So,
Yeah,
and
and
that's
she's also Kelly, she's also good for coming back and doing addendum if you add a bunch of things. Like I've done twice. I had her come back because I wanted to make sure my insurance was updated because I added a whole bunch of stuff.
to change your
And
insurance.
yeah, I wanted to up the insurance. So she'll come and not have to do the full survey. She'll just kind of do an addendum to the survey.
That's good to know.
Okay, so you kind of touched on this. How's the market changed? You've been in this a long time. How's the market changed for sailboats in recent years, but just kind of overall? How has it changed since you first started?
Oh my gosh, it's changed huge. You know, when I first started, it was not uncommon to buy a boat that was 30 or 40 years old as a used boat. You could do that. Nowadays, that's not so easy to do because it's more difficult to insure boats that are over 20 years old, which is ridiculous because a lot of the older boats are much better built than the newer boats. There are a couple of insurance companies that are available that you can actually insure older boats with. They are few and far between, but it's a matter of knowing who they are and being able to get a hold of them and then approaching them with what you have with a full survey and saying, this is what I have, and showing that that vessel is in good repair and in good condition for them to
So
be willing.
back in the old days, if there was no issue, people could get insurance, and there was
You
never.
could get insurance pretty easily. I mean, I grew
Yeah.
up on the Texas Gulf Coast, and
Yeah.
you know, Hurricane Alley is right up our way as well.
Right.
Hurricanes are a fact of life.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to leave a boat all year long, beyond 6 months, and in through hurricane season in certain areas, they either want you to haul the boat out and put it in a boatyard, which to me is an unsafe thing to do. There's more boats that have been damaged in boatyards. When the water rises and the water comes back down, what do? You fall on the stands and you hold the boat. Well, if you have that boat floating, the water goes up, water comes down, the boat goes up, boat goes down. It doesn't land on anything, hopefully, during a hurricane. Sometimes you have debris that does things, but it's not nearly as common and cause nearly as much damage as what the boatyards actually do. So to me, the idea of hauling a boat out in a boatyard during a hurricane, unless you have an unsuitable place to secure that boat, a dock, pilings, mangroves, whatever, is a ridiculous thing to do. You know, I live on an island here. The water goes up, the water comes down. I had one boat one time that actually was a beautiful old West Sail 32. Gentleman had passed away. He was leaving the remnants of the boat and what was made off of it to his 2 young children. That was all he had. Water goes up, water goes down. Everybody in that boatyard, it was loaded up, 127 boats. I don't know why, but this was the last one in the row and I was closest out to the water, and I felt the need to put strops on the boat and bang them into the ground, into the hard ground, to make sure that if the boat lifted up, it wasn't going to come back down on the stands. It was going to stay right where it was. And I closed the through holes. We had a water line on the side of the boat that, sure enough, it went up about 14 feet. The name of that hurricane was Wilma. Destroyed half of this island. Every boat in that yard was knocked down, but that one boat.
Yeah, they can get knocked off their stands
Easily.
or something. As what happened with Island Spirit. That it was in Puerto Rico, and it was fine because it was tied down in a yard, but something else hit it and broke the mast. Like,
well, you know,
something outside of their
control.
they couldn't.
Yeah.
But
still, you know, it's why the insurance company, though, is going to require you to put that boat in a boatyard now, is beyond me.
Well, the last this boat I bought, they made me fill out this big form because it was right after Hurricane Sally. What is your plan? You know, and I had to, and I was trying to get to closing, so I was just like typing in stuff. I got to remember what I typed because they're going to probably hold me to it.
Well,
You know, and it wanted me to tell what I was going to do.
yeah, and
So
where your lines are led and what size lines that you're using, and it's their form of being able to protect themselves for what they're insuring, and understand that you have the capability or have the possibility of having someone help you who has the capability, who has the experience with that. Because the other thing I got to add to that is that these storms have gotten much stronger and they've gotten much larger, and they're lasting a much longer time in duration than they did 30 and 40 years ago.
and would you say there's more boats out there now there's just so many more boats in Florida? Would you say that?
Than there were then.
Yeah. Well, there's a
No,
lot more people there now.
no, there's a lot more people here, but they're you know the a lot of those older boats are gone. They've been gone, and you know, every time we have a hurricane, more of them go. And part of that's because they can't get insured, and where they're having to tie up, how they're tying up, and you know, so some of the older boats are going by the wayside because they're being destroyed so easily. And it's not because of how they're built; it's because of how they can't get into a place that helps them. You know,
Yeah.
it's what keeps the market. But having brand new boats being built, one is a product of the market. It's a product of new advancements coming out with new products and new materials, and keeping those businesses going, those boat building businesses. Now, those boat building businesses have fallen off big time. Here in the United States, we have very few boats. Island packets are, but we have very few boats that are still built here in the United States that are good models of what's a boat that's capable of sailing around the world. You know, we had a number of years ago that Taiwanese boats led the market, and they, in numbers, were much larger in numbers of the boats that existed out there than what we have now. And then the products that they use to build those boats and the knowledge that they have to build those boats is where they become vastly different from country to country. So, saying, you know, here in Florida, we have a lot of import boats. We have a lot of boats that have come in. Are there more boats out there now than there were then? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we had a lot more boats around then. We had a much larger variety, but we had things that shouldn't have been insured that were insured. And then we had ones that should have been insured that couldn't get insurance simply because they were 30 years old.
Right.
You know,
Okay. So here's Hayden says my Caribbean insurance requires hauled out July 1st through December 1st. Caribbean insurance is expensive. So they their sale year is like December to May. And they started leaving their boat in the Caribbean and then going home and then coming back. So Caribbean insurance.
Not all Caribbean insurance requires that.
Okay.
I do have people that I work with that are sailing around the world, that are circumnavigating. I have some Americans that are doing that. And there are some other companies that are not inexpensive, but they're also not breaking the bank. There's a couple of new insurance companies that are going to be popping up soon here that you'll see as well. I'm not at such liberty to talk about, but there are a couple of companies that are considering that are going to be going into the business, and it's about the need in the market. Now,
Well, it's just like insurance on our condos. There's a lot of providers have left the market. So
right.
these people, like you're talking about, probably see an opportunity. They see a hole in the market, and
They see an opportunity.
Let's take advantage of it.
Exactly.
It's America.
And the interesting thing about these funders for these insurance companies that want to start things is that one, they're all foreign financiers, but they also have a big, huge interest in marinas. Now you got to remember, if you're going to keep,
you got to have insurance to be in these nice marinas. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So that makes sense.
Here in South Florida and in the Gulf Coast and in places is that they want you to go north in the summer months during the hurricane season. Well, you got to look at where the hurricanes have been hitting. The hurricanes haven't been hitting in Key West and over here on the lower eastern seaboard as they did before. They're cyclic.
Mm-hmm.
And they were hitting farther up the East Coast.
like where I am.
You're on the West Coast.
No, I'm on the northern Gulf Coast.
Right. But
They
you're
come here. I'm in a bullseye.
Exactly. They immediately think South Florida is where everything's going to roll into. Well, no, it comes over us. It's not built up yet.
Yeah. Or it goes around. Yeah.
But meanwhile, we're the ones down here that can't get insurance because, oh no, you're going to hurricane. So the eastern seaboard in the last couple of years has taken the brunt of more heavier hurricanes and weather than what South Florida has. And yet they're still easy to insure there compared to here.
Well, okay, I see what you're saying.
These couple of different factors have recognized.
Because statistics will show that I get more hurricanes where I am than you do where you are. We get because it builds all, into the Gulf and it gets all mad and angry and bam, it has the whole Gulf to massively, intensify. So I think the statistics would show that I am in a worse spot than you are, first statistically.
Well, as far as being a stronger hurricane, statistically, interestingly enough, as far as the insurance companies go, they think we get hit more.
I know, that's what I'm saying. That doesn't make sense.
Well, they're not sailors and they're not meteorologists and they're not into seeing what they're looking at. Simply, oh well, you had a hurricane that came up over there. So what? It was a 1 and it hit you with a 5.
Yeah, we'll run a little chat GPT spreadsheet for them and we'll send it to them.
but that becomes part of the problem, just like Kelly can attest to, where your permanent address is.
Yeah.
And this is where that comes in. Where your permanent address is that you're going to fill out when you're filing for your insurance is not necessarily where the boat's located.
Right.
The insurance companies look at that. And they may go ahead and agree to insure you because your address is in Ohio and not in Florida at the time.
Right.
And then you decide you're going
to
leave the boat in Florida and you're going to stay here, and they still are okay with it. But yet you turn around and you tell them, well, I'm going to be on the boat and I'm going to be there for this amount of time. And they turn around and they say, oh no, well, you're not in Ohio. Well, no, the boat's here.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Especially knowing like you are on your boat, you're there with it. So when something happens, you're there where you can take action. If she's in Ohio and her boat's in Key West, you may not be able to even go down there.
Most of the insurers are not knowledgeable boaters. You got to remember that. They're bankers.
All right. Well, that's ridiculous.
But
they need to talk to us,
National insurance companies are easier to insure your boats here in the stateside in certain areas than local insurers.
Are you ever able to reason with them, or they just have to go by these rules that they have in their computer? This is it.
You have a knowledge.
Good question, right, Kelly?
I wasn't able to reason with them. I think they just they use the same underwriters that the bank use, and I don't think underwriters are real people. I think they're just robots.
Well, our lenders here, because not every lender can do Gulf front condos, which is what I sell. So our lenders that are here in this area that specialize in condos, they actually work at getting their own underwriters or choosing people that know the condo market, because somebody, in Nashville is not going to understand Gulf front condos. So they have to work hard at getting the right people in place to make things happen.
And there's a lot of merit to that because, for instance, Cindy Lewis is a financer with, recreationfinance.com. If you're using Cindy, she has specific underwriters that she will tell you, hey, give this person a call. She's worked with them for years and she knows the parameters of what they have. She also knows the territorial areas of what they have, as we do, but
that's good information. That's good information, Vanessa. So you work with lenders that specialize in this kind of thing, that you have a better chance of getting it to go through.
Exactly. Well, there's something to that though, Tinsley, and I want to jump off of the the angle on that as well. You can have 5 financiers that are actually telling you, oh yeah, I can, you can, Kelly can talk about this. You can get your financing. You can do this. You can do this. You can do this. Well, if you have a financer who actually has been able to get deals done and has a better record of getting those deals done than another one, chances are you're going to be able to get your financing at a better rate and actually do a better job at it because they've got a good history. That good history is important in that world. Same thing with the insurance world. If you're an insurer and you're actually supporting a lot of people that have had a lot of claims and they've gone through the gamut as individuals, not as fleets. Fleet policies are a whole nother ball of wax for charter companies and other, large, independently owned groups of boats. If you are an insurance agent who has not had a lot of claims, the underwriters are more apt to give you a deal and talk to you because you're doing your homework with your clients and you're making sure that they're following through with what they're telling you they're doing. They've secured their boats. They've done this. You've checked with them before a hurricane. You're checking with them afterwards and you're saying, hey, how's it going? How'd you come out? Everything come out okay? Did you, ahead of time? Hey, I wanted to just double check, let you know where I'm going to be. I want to let you know. I hope you're secured, ready to go. By the way,
are you following your hurricane plan?
Exactly.
That kind of thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Kelly, are you listening to all this?
Oh, I have a plan. I had to write one up.
Okay, good. Yeah, I had to too. I got to go back and read it.
I have it saved on my computer so I can remember what am I supposed to be checking off my list.
Yeah, because it could be the difference of you getting covered or not. If I did what I said here, and it still got damaged, so you got to pay me.
And they hire a surveyor to come in and say, hey, this was. Sometimes you have situations you can't avoid, and it just is what happens. That's because the storms have gotten stronger, they've gotten bigger, and they've gotten so that they're not as able to be controlled. That's the problem with staying in a Category 5 marina and one that's not.
Right.
So that's where things are changing, and that's why those companies are also looking at going into insurance.
Well, let's talk about interest rates. Interest rates are high right now, so. You have how do you steer people when they're trying to get the best interest rate possible in a time like this?
Once again, I look to the person that I'm going to have doing the financing, and I have them talk to that person because that person, if they've had a good track record, they've had a good record and a good history, they're going to be able to get you a better rate than what Joe down the street that just started is.
Right.
And that's a big deal. It can be a big deal for some people, maybe not others. One of the things with boats is that you will find that if you just go to the bank and you've been banking with this bank for 35, 40 years, and you've decided I'm going to retire and I'm going sailing, doggone it. Well, you actually go to your bank and you say, hey, I want to get a loan because I'm going to buy a boat. They're going to look at you and they're going to, okay. And they're going to turn around and they're going to give you an 11% interest rate or something like that. But they don't have any how it works with boats. They don't understand that it's a depreciating asset. They want to treat it like a house. And so your valuation is going to be way off to begin with. And they're going to figure your interest rate out based on what you only have personally right there, not off of the history of a lender who's actually trying to help you with those things and how to go through answering some of those questions so that it benefits you. They also don't have the same track record that lender actually had. That agent with that lending company has a track record, and that is huge.
Well, you're making a great point, and it's the same way with real estate. I have to, when a buyer comes to me, it's important that they're talking to the right lender for what we want to do. It's going to be a big waste of time because you know how lenders are. They'll say, oh yeah, no problem. We can do that. And you get 20 days down the road and they can't do it.
Or 3 days closing and they
go. Yeah. And so that's where an experienced broker or experienced real estate agent going to say that one's probably going to be a waste of time. Let's go over here. These people do this all day long, all year. And these folks can get it done with a boat for the best interest possible. And they're used to doing boats. so this will be a smooth transaction. So it takes because I know this in real estate, I know this to be true with boat brokers too. Talk to an experienced boat broker who can help you, point you in the right direction for all these things, actually.
Kelly had a lending experience that was not to begin with, the most pleasant in the world. And they kind of were almost throwing their arms up in the air and going, we can't do this.
Kelly, were you talking to the wrong lender?
Well, I mean, it was who we were steered to begin with.
Not from
one avenue. No, not from Vanessa. And he was just very discouraging. The interest rate was high. They were requiring a much larger down payment. And he basically was like, yeah, I can do this, but he just told us we couldn't afford it. But whatever.
So were they used to doing boats?
Yeah, it was. Yep, for sure.
It was still not the best one for you.
I think he was trying to scare us away. And then maybe too, I just felt like we got a kind of a bad feeling about, like, I don't know if he was trying to just take advantage of us because we didn't know what we were doing. But we were just like, nope, we're not going to do that. Let's go another route. And so Vanessa was able to help us she gave us
what happened, Vanessa?
A couple names.
Well, I have to throw something out there on this as well, because I've heard a couple of other stories about that. But, when COVID happened, this is the world after COVID. And we announce it like that. It's the world after COVID. I mean, for years in the boating industry, it didn't matter if it was a mega yacht. It didn't matter if it was a mini mega yacht. It didn't matter if it was a 15-foot sailboat or a 15-foot, Boston whaler. You had some of the same lenders that were getting the information out there, providing those loans to the same people. The world changed after COVID, and we had a lot of people that all of a sudden decided, well, I'm going to take a new career. I'm going to go into boat loans. And they still haven't figured them out. And they can't really help their clients a whole lot, but they have, you were asking earlier, or Hayden was asking, what do you think about surveyors that turn deals off? There's more boat lenders right now that turn deals off than there is surveyors. And it's for the exact thing what Kelly is saying. And they don't have a lot of it. They're not people who have had a lot of experience in this industry. So they kind of start in the middle of the game instead of starting at the bottom of the pile and having you work things all the way up and put them together. And they kind of slide something in the door there thinking that they can do it this way. And everybody throws their arms up in the air and gets really frustrated and turns around in a big circle and digs a big hole.
Well, and that goes back to if I encourage people to hire an experienced boat broker that can help them with these choices. And you're like me, we're supposed to offer 3 of this and you choose, and 3 of that and you choose, for liability reasons. But we all know in our industries who can get the job done.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll usually give people at least 2, if not 3, but I've for years worked with some of the same lenders that I'm still always going to send people back to, because I know it's a reputable company. And I know they have the experience to be able to look outside of the box. Almost every boat deal that you have is outside of the box. There's very few that are in the box. I mean, I had a guy just post-COVID who owned a bank. And he wanted to take out a loan for a little power boat that was $125,000 because he just didn't have cash sitting around. But he was in love with this boat. And it was a great boat. A great price. It was a $200,000 boat all day long, and he was going to be able to get it for $125,000 because of the situation. So he actually went to his bank that he owned, and they wouldn't acknowledge take his loan. They wouldn't.
That doesn't surprise me, because that's not their specialty. That's not their specialty. Yeah. It goes back to choosing the right broker. It's going to help you avoid those pitfalls. And so Kelly, tell us what happened with your insurance. I believe you had trouble with your level of experience, and I've heard this before, Tell us what happened with that.
Yeah, I mean, because we have zero experience, or basically zero. It was hard to get insured. So we had some names through the lender, and those people were very nice and they were very knowledgeable. But the one wanted to charge us a lot and then have a lot of stipulations, basically.
Yeah.
And then the other one was basically like, no, I can't do it. And that was because of the stipulations with the marina that we're in and the requirements that the marina has for liability. They weren't able to give us any kind of umbrella policy, and they weren't able to like add on any kind of extra liability. So that was a no-go. So then we decided, well, we're just going to have to look at like some of the bigger companies like Progressive or Geico. And Geico was able to help us. And so that was good. I mean, it's expensive, but they were at least able to get us insured with less stipulations. Actually, we just had to basically
what kind of
have
stipulations?
a hurricane
plan. Like no
so
sailing at night or something?
they didn't say that. It's basically just an offshore. So we can only go a certain number of miles offshore. And we're like, well, that's fine because we haven't even left the dock yet. So it's great. So we have a little
gotta
bit.
Get you off the dock, Kelly.
And it's actually, I think, like 100 miles offshore. So it's like a decent amount of miles offshore.
Hey, you can
and
sail
they don't have any
for the Caribbean at 100 miles offshore.
Yeah, we can go to Cuba, 90 miles to Cuba.
That's right.
But there's no international sailing. I think that's one of the stipulations. And then I think that's pretty much it. That and the hurricane plan, there was no stipulations as far as like the need for a captain, surprisingly, whereas the other insurance company, and rightfully so, they were like, you should have a captain for XYZ amount of hours. But yeah, Geico was able to help us and actually get us a better rate than the other company with less stipulations. And then I was able to put bundle under my Jeep too. So.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, Vanessa, was it always like that? Did they always look at the experience of the sailors, or is that just a recent thing?
I don't ever remember when they did not look at the experience of the sailors. Okay. There's been different levels that they have taken. But, I was in a situation when I bought my boat that I've had now. I was in a little bit of a different situation, and I had problems the very first year when I tried to insure my boat. But I had been a tonnage licensed captain since my 18th birthday. And I bought my 42, 51 foot overall boat when I was 21. And I'd already sailed halfway around the world. And I already had over 70,000 nautical miles under my belt. But yet the insurance company, because I was 21 years old, said, no. I mean, I documented every single trip, had a captain sign off on it that I had actually sailed with, had the owner of the vessel signed off.
Interesting.
I repoed boats in places you weren't supposed to go. You do things when you're younger that you really shouldn't do, but it depends on what's going on. And, sometimes you should be doing them. It's where it comes from. But, I remember the very first year when I was insuring my big boat, they actually insisted that I have my parents sign off.
Oh, my gosh.
With something as
Kelly's laughing.
Along with
they had to sign they were liable?
Yeah.
Wow.
And the first year I insured my boat, they actually made me. Now that was a Lloyd's of London policy.
Okay, so those things eventually get worked out. Like Kelly, you guys, you get some experience, you'll be able to change that situation. Well, and let me tell you, Kelly, what happened to me. I got this boat, and a year later, the people decided they weren't going to do my older boat. It's a 1998. So I called around, and every policy was like, they had a problem with me sailing by myself overnight.
Yeah.
And I was like, they go, well, you can do this, but you can't do all this, which was like what I mostly do, like sailing across the Gulf. I couldn't do that so I called the broker finally said, call Geico, because we just don't have anybody here that can. She said, just call. She kind of whispered it in the phone. Call Geico, And so I called Geico and I said, do you have a bunch of stipulations? She goes, like what? And I go, I don't want to tell you. And she laughed and she goes, let's go ahead and get it out. And I told her everything I do. She goes, we don't have a problem with that. So I think it's just a matter of calling around, getting a good broker to help. And sometimes you just have to live with it for a while, right?
Yeah. Larger insurance companies have a tendency to pull things a little bit better. You get in boats that are over 40 feet, and this is where a lot of things change. Over 40 feet and older than 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's what helped us, that our boat was a fine size, not too small, not too big, and that it was newer.
Yeah.
The boat wasn't the problem. It was they had questions about the marina and you guys' experience. Yep. So thank God it had to do with the boat. You got a while before you have to worry about that, right?
Yes.
So who knows what will happen when I renew, but there's always that chance, right? But Vanessa's always going to be on hand to tell us who's just come in the market that's going to be. And they were telling me that, and I have my captain's license, and now I'm just up to 25 ton, and had all this experience going across the Gulf by myself, at the overnight, 48 hours, whatever, and they still were bringing that stuff up. But it's just a numbers thing for them. It's a business, I understand, but you kind of have to. You can't give up.
No, you can't give up. And you got to dig your heels in, and you got to talk to people, and you got to talk to people all over the place. For years and years and years, I used an insurance broker that Cindy actually turned me on to up in Annapolis, and I ended up having multiple people with charter fleets that ended up insuring with them, and they love that. And the former owner of the charter company that I worked with and ran, she's now doing insurance and over in the middle of the Great Lakes though now. And she recognized the need in the market for it. And so she still plugs in those things there. But, there's a huge gap in the market. And there are some people who have been talking for a while about filling that gap. And hopefully something's going to change. The hardest part is that our weather is not the same as it was 20 years ago. Everybody can recognize that. And, that is pretty much, besides the economy, what is running the insurance market.
Well, I think it's cyclical, like you said. Like there were like here, we didn't have a major hurricane for 16 years. And then now it's like every year there's something either close by or something, but hopefully we'll go back to no activity for years on end.
We're going to have La Nina years. It's all relative to it, but the size of the storms and the intensity of the storms is what is drastically changing.
So Admin Logistics has a question here. We kind of did cover this, but what would you say? Find a good broker. It depends on the boat, it depends on the marina, it depends on your experience, but it can be done. Is that a good summary?
I would say persistence. Yeah. So just like if you have a list of people, get a list of people or insurance companies rather to call them all. Yeah. And don't give up.
Yeah. That list.
And buy a new boat.
Yeah. There you go.
So you don't have that part, right?
Yeah.
Well, there was a lady here who wanted to buy this. I don't know. It was over 50 feet. And the insurance company goes, no. So you have to get this size first, own it for 2 or 3 years, whatever it is, and then upgrade. So they'll tell you what needs to happen.
And I mean, so we had actually looked not at much bigger boats, but at older boats. Like we loved the old Tianas, like the Vancouver 42 was on our short list. Heavy, sturdy, beautiful, full of teak, which I went the opposite and was like, no teak, because I didn't want to take care of it. But the reason that we didn't pursue that, it was older, and we knew that we were going to already struggle with getting insurance and financing, and that neither of those things would probably be possible with an older boat. So,
Now, what if
with older boats, though, there are still some places you can get it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it just
Yeah.
would have been even harder, and it was already hard enough. Plus, we love our boat.
Admin Logistics, I highly recommend that you call if you're in the market. Let's see, putting up your information. Call Vanessa Lindsley, Edward Yacht Sales, 305-680-9986. She's the one in the middle here.
And always,
Yeah. So she'll help you out. So let's see, I just had a question in my head. Oh, okay. So say Kelly and Mike were just going to be liveaboards. How much of a difference does that make? Like, we're just gonna buy this boat and live on it. We're not really planning on doing much sailing.
that's going to be up to them, but there are a lot of things. That's almost a perfect boat. And I say that because that boat has so much storage. It has so much space. It has the capability of even two people.
No, I mean for insurance purposes.
Well,
like, do they treat you different?
Yeah, it's huge.
Do they believe you when you say that?
So we don't live on our boat.
Right.
We don't live on our boat.
Okay.
Yeah.
But hypothetically,
I have another address.
So if hypothetically a customer says, I want to buy this boat and I'm really honestly just going to live on it. Does this insurance company take their word for it? I guess they just say, okay, but if you're outside the marina, it's not going to cover it.
Oh.
You mean like port risk?
I don't know. That
Okay,
sounds right.
So
Port risk. Okay.
You can get an addendum in a policy. For instance, if you're doing some long-term repair work to your boat, or you're doing where you might have had a physical ailment or something happened where you are not going to be leaving the marina and you're not.
Oh, this is good
you can
info.
Call your insurance company and you can say, I want to ask you if I can get port risk insurance. Well, that port risk insurance, they stick to it. Where you can get a little bit of reduction in your pricing that year, but you are not going to leave that marina. If you leave that marina, you will not be covered.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So port risk is a capability. However, port risk is not designed for a liveaboard.
Okay.
It's doing something maintenance-wise in the work, and a lot of times they want to have a surveyor look at the condition valuation of the boat, and then they'll have them come back later on and look at the capital improvement that's been made. A good example for that many times is going to be someone with teak decks. Your teak decks need to be rebedded and they need to be resealed. So resealing them, okay, are you screwing and gluing? Are you just gluing? Are you doing epoxy coats? Are you doing glass work underneath? You got a series of different things, but you have to have conditions correct in doing that. You got to be able to have awnings up in doing that. You got to protect the decks in between times doing that. And that could be up to 6 months. No matter what, you're not going to go sailing when you're in the middle of doing that. And that is the purpose of port risk.
Now, what about like in the situation with Island Spirit that spends 6 months on the hard in right now? They kept it in Antigua.
They have the capability of getting port risk if their insurance company will agree to it for that period of time that the boat is actually on the hard. There's a couple of insurance companies that will agree to it, and you have to ask them for it. They're not going to offer it.
Is it a big difference?
It can be. It depends on the company.
Thousands?
It could be a couple of grand. I mean,
it's worth asking.
Yeah, it's worth asking, because if you have a policy that runs you $7,200 a year, and I'm going to give you my boat as an example for this.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I went under port risk, and it was after the hurricane in 2017. I got hit by a tornado. And the only boat in the marina that got hit, and it bounced over the back of my aft deck, and it was in another marina. And so that next year, I had started cleaning everything up, done everything, but I wanted to go ahead because I was not going anywhere, was cleaning stuff up. So I went to the insurance company and I said, I want to get port risk on the boat. They agreed. Saved me $1,500.
Nice. That's definitely worth it.
But I was
not port risk. I learned something new today. Okay, so this one, here's another question. can you give any advice on courses to take? And I'll give my 2 cents after you guys answer. Prior to purchasing your boat, would any of the ASA courses be beneficial, or is it best to hire a captain after the purchase? Go.
Multiple answers to that. So we have ASA here in the United States. We also have U.S. sailing. U.S. sailing is not geared only towards racing. The difference between ASA and U.S. sailing, and I have been a licensed instructor for both.
Sweet.
Is that ASA, when you take those courses, you prove capability. U.S. sailing is a little bit more direct. You have to prove competency. There is a difference. And the difference is, one of them, they expect you to master the field, and the other, they expect you to simply demonstrate that you can do it.
Okay.
It's a difference between an 80 on a test and a 95 on a test. And I'm not
U.S. sailing would be the 95.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
It's about the skills, not about the test itself. It's about how you.
Right, I understand.
Yeah. So the ASA courses are the older ones in this country, and they are geared towards everybody, kids, aging, the whole 9 yards. But they also did not completely advance as the boating world has advanced in what happened with some of the skills. The very first and easiest example is man overboard. ASA for years was a figure 8 and sail back and pick them up. Well, part of my background is extreme sports and physiology. You know that. It's already been proven, was proven many years ago. Mentally, you see the boat sailing away from you, you immediately panic, and boom, that's when you drown. U.S. sailing's first rule of the road, when there's a man overboard, point them, stop the boat, stop the boat, stop the boat. Bam.
Makes more sense.
Huge difference.
Yeah. So
totally different thought processes and how the teaching is. Both of them are great school courses. Both of them are wonderful. I think, in my opinion, it is relative to where your sailing is ultimately going to be, that you're going to be doing sooner than later, as to which of those sets of courses you are going to want to take. And yes, they are hugely beneficial. There's a great new U.S. sailing school down here in Key West, Charisma Sailing. So there's a lot of ASA schools around, because you're going to see they're also somewhat territorial. There's always been more ASA stuff in the Southeast and on the Eastern Seaboard than there has U.S. sailing. U.S. sailing has always been more prominent and more prevalent on the West Coast, in the Pacific.
Okay. Well, let me give my 2 cents. I did take ASA. I took 3 ASA courses before I got my first boat. ASA 101, 103, and 104. And now, as far as the other option, and I do find that they were helpful, and I'm glad I did it. And especially if you're a new sailor and you want to go rent a boat somewhere, they do look at that if you've got courses. But the hiring a captain, I do know several captains that that will help you move the boat from point A to point B and go with you and show you how to use your boat. And I think that's a good idea too.
That is a worthy thing to do. The problem is somebody has a captain that they hire, they don't have a boat yet.
No, this is the hire the captain after the purchase. That's the question.
Oh, okay.
And I do, like Blaine, he moves, Blaine Parks, he moves a lot of island packets. Like, he's the guy that everybody calls with island packets. And that's one of his services. I will help you learn your boat.
Right.
And I think that's a great idea. I mean, do both, you know?
Yeah.
Why not? Exactly. I know Cecilia has done that. She has helped move a boat for somebody and sailed with them, you know, and taught them, was trying to do her best to teach them their boat. You know, it's good to learn your boat.
That's what I've spent 60% of my life doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So they can hire you.
Not right now, but
okay.
My body's trying to get together.
And what's your feedback on that, Kelly?
So we didn't take any courses. We just dove in.
There's a lot of people who don't, and they just jump right in, and it works out well for them.
Not to say that, you know, never say never, like, because I have talked about it. Mike is a little bit more like, the best is just to do it yourself. which I get that too, but not opposed to, like, I think we both agree hiring a captain so we can learn on the boat is probably the route to go, because every boat is so different. So, it just makes sense.
And we're working on trying to do something here. So there's another couple that's kind of in the same situation as Mike and Kelly are, that are buying a boat that's down here as well. And we're through Terry Ivans. And we're looking at trying to, Celia was the surveyor for both of them. And we're looking at trying
small world in this sailing community.
We're looking at trying to put both of these couples of folks together, because I think they're going to enjoy each other's company immensely, especially doing some buddy boat things to begin with. Just this is a great place to do that. And we're trying to get scheduling set up when they're done here at the end of January, so that we can start going out and everybody can start learning their own boats on their own, but have a couple of other people around with some other input added to it.
Is this something you would facilitate, or you just say, have at it?
No, I would be on board with them for the, for the or another person that I would entrust to do that with. A good instructor is going to have 4 ways of describing the same thing. And you watch your students, you watch your folks, and you watch their facial expressions, and you look at their frustration levels or their experience levels and how much they're enjoying themselves. And you know that you've actually accomplished conveying to them what it is that they're trying to grasp and learn, and are comfortable doing it. And that's the whole trick in doing it safely. So, because everybody's got their own way of doing things. So when you have people on their own boats, they're going to develop their own way of doing things, but they're going to develop their own way a little bit quicker than just on a lesson. I still think that the ASA and the US Sailing, for the beginnings of the basics, are a phenomenal route to go.
Yeah.
For years, I did instruction on your own boat teaching. And
nice.
That was through a couple of separate schools that have both gone by their waysides over the course of years. But I did that when I was a teenager, all the way up until I was just a few years ago.
Well, I took all those courses, and when I took my Island Packet 27 to the Keys and back that first time, wow, I learned so much. You take the courses, but then when you're out there, you're really learning what makes this, what makes the wind move the sails. move the boat. The sails, you really learn it then. It's all in a book at first, but when you I came back, I just felt like I really was at one with the boat. And then the next trip, I even got more and more familiar with it. So like you said, Kelly, just going out there and doing it. And some people aren't brave enough to do that. But if you could just get help leaving the dock, you're not going to hit anything. Just get out there and start. Just get away from everybody and start doing stuff,
They've got a
huh?
They've got a valve.
Yeah,
they got a valve for us. Okay.
We do.
Yeah.
We don't know how to use it necessarily, but we're
it can be a little intimidating leaving the dock the first time. You just got to make yourself do it.
And you've got to have conditions to be able to do it in, and not sit there and push the numbers,
Yeah, good conditions are important.
Yeah.
Well, we've been on here for over an hour. This has been a great conversation. I hope it's been helpful to people. Kelly, I put this up on, if you look above your heads, you also see the audio side of things. So the audio version goes up too on about 20 audio podcast sites. So people can go and some people will be listening to this, but it'll also be posted on these other areas, and all the clips will come up too. But if anybody has any questions for Vanessa, let me put your contact information up. And she would love to help you out, help you buy a boat. You see, she's not gonna just sell you any old boat. She's gonna listen to you and come up with the best situation for you. Isn't that right, Vanessa?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily going to be one of my listings.
Right. No. And you do have 3 listings. And I just wanted to show how it's not all $1 million boats. It's different price ranges. Here's the Island Packet. So that one's $475, and then we've got
Lipari catamaran.
yeah, let me open this up a little bit. So we've got I got to go back.
Huh.
We've got this boat here, this big old power boat, 55-foot.
That's a commercial fish boat.
And then we got this one. We got the Island Packet. Then we got this catamaran. Cat says, so you're pretty diverse on what you offer. And here's the boats some of the boats you've sold.
Yep. I'm pretty diverse.
You can handle it all. Look at that.
I just listed a Meridian today, actually, a Meridian 46. Great looper boat. And I've also got a 35-foot sport fish that's already located in Marathon, ready to go.
So the looper boat, is that like a trawler or something? I know nothing about power boats.
It's a motor yacht. It's a mini motor yacht. It's a Meridian 46.
Okay, it sounds like a condo on water.
It is water, but it's
or as some people in the sailing world say, it's a stink pot. Those power boats are stink pots.
They have their merit. Everybody has their interests, and it's a matter of what some people want more than others.
And I'm amazed that you can talk about all these with such knowledge. So very impressive.
All about pieces.
What's that?
All about parts and pieces in them.
Parts and pieces.
They're all fiberglass. Some of them have sails. Some of them don't. They all have certain kinds of rigging. They all have separate electrical systems, plumbing systems.
Some are gas, some are diesel. Some are old, some are new. Okay, well, thank you guys for coming on. Kelly's, thank you for rushing home. Well, you kind of work at home, but rushing from your work for coming on and sharing your experience. We want to have you and Mike back and tell you more about your experience, because I think it's very interesting. And I'll be down there soon to see you guys. Maybe I could go out on the boat with you guys. What do you think?
Yeah, we'd love that.
Me and Vanessa.
I think we should get them out sailing for their first go round. We got to wait for this cold front to get through here.
Yes, I am not a cold weather sailor. It's just I like sun and warm.
But still going to be in the mid 60s, but it's just this bloody north wind. When it comes around the corner, it can get you pretty quick.
Yeah, it's pretty cold here right now too. Oh wait, let's see. I think we might have one more comment. Oh, look at this. I'll be in touch, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Admin logistics. Don't. Just a dog lover. That's all we know. It's a little dog there. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to take us out. Let me get it all queued up. And what do we say? Salty Abandon. Out.